So we're at 1:30. We are live from the Atlas Saloon. Trey, how are we feeling? Another episode of the Fastest 40s. We gear up for the Denver Broncos. Got some snow here in Kansas City, same as what we're feeling in Denver. So gonna be matching the climate there.
Yeah, it happened just in time. Snow just started here in the last couple minutes, but it's gonna be a great pregame here. We're down at the Atlas Saloon. There's the chili contest going on today,
Yep.
so I'm gonna have a lot of people down here, as Dan and I have talked numerous times.
Yeah.
Every game day, a lot of beer going on, a lot of beer drinking going on down here, a lot of food, a lot of friends, a lot of Chiefs fans celebrating Chiefs wins down here. So I'm looking forward to another Chiefs win today, Dan.
Dude, absolutely. And I know as we get closer to game time, about 3:25 is when we're set to for kickoff on CBS. There's going to be a lot more people trickling in, so you're going to get a good feel for the environment here at the Atlas and Excelsior Springs and kind of everything that it's going to bring. A lot of Chiefs fans here. We all know Chiefs Kingdom spread so much further than
Oh yeah.
just the Kansas City area. It's really everything here in the KC Metro, where just a bunch of diehards, man.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. And we
Yeah.
got the best quarterback in the league. We have a phenomenal defense this year, something that has been a lot different than what we've seen really since
Yeah.
like 2014, 2015, when we had those defensive oriented teams led by Justin Houston, Eric Berry, and
Derek
all those other
Johnson.
guys. Derek
Yeah.
DJ, baby,
Yeah.
shout out to DJ. It's really awesome seeing this kind of morph into what it's become. It's like full circle, history repeating itself, where we're getting our defense back and at the top of its game.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun to watch the defense. As you talked about a couple weeks ago with the spread, the point spread that we've had in the games, and how that swung from the Chiefs' offense not being as dominant as it once
Right.
was, say 2019 or 2018 or 2020, now to where we're seeing the only defense in the league to not allow 21 points, which is impressive, right? So,
Right.
for especially for defenses not really getting a lot of recognition right now. So it's exciting to watch, and it's going to be a great another show out against Russ Wilson, who struggled against this defense just a couple weeks ago.
Just a couple weeks ago, and just about every other time he's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
faced this team since he's been in Denver, at least. Well, we typically kick off the show with the AFC landscape kind of ramping up into that Chiefs game. So we'll start there. This is presented by our friends at eCoffee, KC Local Coffee Company. You can visit them at www.eeroastscoffee.com. They're grabbing their coffee from all over the globe and bringing it here to Kansas City, roasting it, and getting it to wherever you need your coffee. So I know Trey and I were kickstarting our morning up with a shot of espresso most days, but on Saturdays and Sundays, it's a nice cup of coffee. So check them out, www.eeroastcoffee.com. The trade deadline
This way.
is really close, man. Halloween, 4 o'clock Eastern time is when the paperwork needs to be
Yep.
submitted to the NFL to make those trades official. What's been pretty cool kind of for us is there's not a whole lot of pressure for us to be buyers at the deadline. And we're obviously not selling anybody because we have the best record in the league. So there's all those factors that really doesn't make this as much of a pressure point for
Yep.
us
Yep.
kind of going into it. But with the rest of the AFC, there's a lot of names that could get moved.
Yeah, and a couple other factors there for the Chiefs is that one, we've already made a move here with McCole Hardman. We saw just a couple weeks ago, which
Yep.
was really
Welcome back.
the way Brett Veach operates. He doesn't really make a lot of big ticket moves. So I think one and done for Brett Veach is probably what we'll see for the Chiefs standpoint. And with the play elevating for the Chiefs in the last couple weeks as well, we've kind of seen a full scheme of football, full games develop for the
Right.
Chiefs. So I don't see the Chiefs out there searching for that last ticket option to try to make a full team here. So I think the Chiefs are set in stone.
Yep.
But looking through a couple of these names, Dan, top two here just to talk about Jerry Jeudy, who we will be playing today,
Right.
and Chase Young to Chicago is what the rumor is right now. So,
Really?
yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen much of that, but with some of the movement there, lot of what our needs have been in previous years is edge rusher, wide receiver, maybe cornerback here and there. There were if you go back a few years, it's Patrick Peterson, Jalen Ramsey, Minka Fitzpatrick. Are we going to acquire somebody there in the back end that can help us in the secondary? But with the way the defense has kind of panned out to this point, we have so many young stars. We've invested so much capital. A big trade piece with Tyreek Hill moving out allowed us to acquire the draft picks necessary to really build this defense out. I don't really see a need to kill any of our draft picks because of the success we've seen from Brett Veach and the rest of that coaching staff in evaluating the proper talent that's going to fit the scheme to dominate these offenses we're coming up against.
Sure.
We've
Yep.
just seen this. Really, it's been like a 3-year project, right? Since 2020, 21, 22, those drafts leading into this past draft here in Kansas City in 23 allowed us to stack that talent. We're going to keep developing that. And the names, some of the other names on this list, like with the running backs, you got your Dalvin Cooks, your Derrick Henrys that could be potentially targeted coming into what a lot of Chiefs fans might think is a need for the team. But man, Isaiah Pacheco just runs with a first, so there's no need to bring any of these guys in and kill our cap.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And obviously, if you have a guy like Derrick Henry on your football team, that's a game changer. Same with Dalvin Cook; he's a stud as well.
We're talking about a guy that's going to go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he changed the game for running backs, right? So, but again, for the Chiefs, is that a need for us to go out and try to grab a guy like Derrick Henry? No. Dalvin Cook, again, no. Isaiah Pacheco can handle the load. And then with Jerick McKinnon, he can take the third down snaps, or he can take the passing snaps to where, I mean, we said it last year multiple times, where Jerick McKinnon is the best pass blocking running back in the league. I mean, he's an absolute stud in there when it comes to, whether it's a deep tackle, edge rusher, whoever may be coming in. I mean, he's a monster when he's in the backfield blocking. So
it's been great having him for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's a veteran. A lot of the guys in that room are looking up to him for guidance and the things that they're doing. I think Isaiah Pacheco probably has a lot that he owes to McKinnon for the way that he carries himself and prepares kind of going in these games. But I think what's most important about this trade deadline is what it's going to mean for the other teams in the AFC. You've got T. Higgins on the Bengals, who's due for a big contract that could potentially get shopped. Even if it's not before the deadline, it could be in the offseason where maybe they don't have the capital to shell out more money for the wide receiver position group because they know Jamar Chase is going to be coming due the following year. And they just paid Joe Burrow.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a huge benefit to us here in Kansas City, knowing that they're going to start feeling those cap restrictions from that big contract that we saw for Burrow, for Herbert, and for some of these other younger quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence is coming up too. So,
and it makes you feel good as a Chiefs fan too, where you're sitting with, Pat Mahomes is paid, but at the same point, we have this flexibility with both picks and cap space where we can make some of these moves in the offseason to be able to bring guys in and supplement different areas that we need to address in the offseason. So, Chiefs are in it for the long run. It feels like, Brett Veach has built a very good foundation of what we're seeing, to where we can kind of reach our tentacles out into different areas and address different areas where we need to. And I mean, I feel comfortable as a Chiefs fan looking 5 years down the road. Right. So,
dude, the system we put together right now has been well oiled, to say the least. So, we're built for success. We're built to last here. Not to steal a line from, the tools or the truck company that put that out together. But everything that we've seen here, there's really no need for us to make any big market moves or any splashes in the trade market. But, a big name that's been tossed around for the Chiefs, DeAndre Hopkins, even before he signed that contract with the Tennessee Titans, there's questions about whether or not that they're going to ship him out. And, I think his salary is somewhere in the $1 million range at this point. So if the Chiefs were to make a move for DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, how would you feel about that hypothetically?
I'm all over that. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. But again, every time we talk trades, it's what are you willing to give up?
Right.
And is that person going to come into your scheme and be able to produce for the rest of the season into February on what we plan to be playing football in February, right? So
we better be.
Yeah. So does D-Hop plug in to what we want to try to do here in Kansas City? Personally, I think yes. But I mean, what are we willing to give up? What would you give up for a D-Hop?
Well, we'll talk more about John Ross in a little bit, the situation that's going on. But really, D-Hop would be able to embody that role that I think we were hoping to get from John Ross, or Justin Ross, rather,
there we go,
where he's got that length and he can stretch the field and be that guy that we hit deep, and we know we can trust his hands whenever we get the ball to him. So what am I willing to give up for him? I think anything greater than a third round pick would be too much. Even the third round pick gives me pause because I
Sure.
know what we can do in those middle rounds in the draft. Those day 2 picks
Yep.
are
Yep.
super valuable for us because
They
we see
are.
those guys slip
Oh
back
yeah.
so
Yep.
often and kind of pounce on those situations. I know Brett Veach is all over that, but um, with the fact that he has more money due on his contract going into year 2, which it was structured a little bit in a way where the Titans could cut bait if they're in a situation. So, if
Yep.
we really, really have an emphasis on bringing DeAndre Hopkins back into this offense, there's no reason why we shouldn't wait to see what the Titans are going to do in the offseason and just let whatever team, wants to put up the capital to acquire his services, they can do that. And we just you know, hold our position the way that it is now.
Yeah, I think there was a couple question marks as far as what D Hop is has left in the tank, right? But I think what we've seen the last couple weeks is that D Hop still has game. I mean, as of today, he's
Dude,
already got
he's
one
a baller.
touchdown. I don't know how many yards, but I'm just checking the fantasy here a couple minutes ago, and he's already got a touchdown for me.
Well, I
So,
didn't know that.
um,
I benched him,
oh,
so
good for you.
yeah,
Good for
damn it.
you. Yeah.
Is that Will Levis who threw that one, or do you know?
I don't know. I don't know, but it'll be
Son of a
interesting to see with the Titans team. It's been a hot sale over there, as what people are saying. After Bird went to her went to Philly, so um, it'll be
yeah,
interesting to see if they try to move anything in the next couple of days until, like Dan said, Halloween at 4 p.m. But is that you know is that going to change anything for Tennessee going into the offseason, really?
yeah,
Obviously, they've already communicated to Derrick Henry that they're not going to trade him. If somebody offers up something crazy, then obviously you jump on that and you take that. But it'll be interesting to see not just the Titans, but who else out there is willing to give up some key players that might be able to get them some real estate going into the
yeah,
offseason. There's been talks about Kirk Cousins getting shipped out of Minnesota. This was before, Minnesota had strung together a couple good games, and I think they're up right now. I think they're up 2 scores on Green Bay, which Green Bay is a pretty sorry team. What we've seen the last couple weeks, but um,
I
uh,
thought Jordan Love was going to get it done for him,
yeah,
man. Those first 2
they
weeks.
look decent, yeah, to start the season. But what we've seen now is not the Green Bay we've all been used to. Aaron
Yeah,
Rodgers, Brett Favre for 20-25 years. So
yeah, and
um,
to bring it back to the Titans too, with Kevin Byard getting dished out, I think with Mike Vrabel being the coach there in Tennessee, like they're going to be a viable opponent for the Chiefs in the AFC, regardless of
yeah,
what's going on.
yep,
So I think the Titans have the wherewithal to string it back together and potentially put us in a position to play them as a wild card kind of team. Now, I foresee the Chiefs getting that first round bye, just the way that things have been playing out in the AFC so far. Now we're about to run the gauntlet starting November 20th with the
yep,
Eagles.
sure,
And then after that, left on the schedule, we've got teams like the Bengals and the Bills. So there's a lot of potential there for us to get some marquee matchups going. But to bring it back into what's going on this week, New England's playing Miami at the moment. We've got Jacksonville and Pittsburgh lining up. And then later on today, we'll get Cincinnati and San Fran. And those are really the big games on the AFC side of things that are ultimately going to dictate where our seating
yep,
sits,
sure.
depending on how Denver goes, and which I feel pretty good about that. But um, with that Miami New England game, that's one of those games that could end up turning at any time. Bill Belichick's been, I mean, his record against Miami is damn near spotless. Right now, Miami's got the lead on him 17-7, but you just never know how that's going to turn out with Tyreek coming into this game a little bit banged up. Um, Belichick's one of the best in terms of scheming defenses, especially when it comes to their division rivals. We saw what they did to the Bills last week. So that's one of those games that's not over until it's over.
Yep, absolutely. And like you said, that one's got some implications for us as Chiefs fans, what that looks like if the Dolphins go down, we separate that gap a little bit more for us. And
Yeah.
and what's been, an odd couple weeks in the AFC where the Chiefs have, quietly won. We had a close game with Denver a couple weeks ago, and then
Shouldn't have been that close.
and Buffalo's dropped 2 in a row. And so there's the conversations are starting to morph around the AFC now. How are things going to shuffle out, and where are people going to be? And already we've seen the Chiefs sitting at the number 1 seed in the AFC, and now it's ours to lose, right?
Right.
So are we going to continue to keep the pressure on, play good football. But like you said, we got a pretty heavy schedule coming up here in the next couple weeks and several weeks, really going into Thanksgiving
Yeah.
weekend, where we play Philly on Monday night, the week of Thanksgiving. So it'll be interesting to see, a true test for what we've got going on. Obviously, when we saw Philly and Miami play, that was a test for both of those teams to play another decent football team.
Right.
So Miami hadn't been challenged before that.
They kind of falter when they play the
Yeah.
big brother.
Yep.
They
Yep.
can bully everybody in their grade, but when
Yep.
they play the the one above them, they kind of disappear.
Yep. And that's why I was kind of looking at the New England game today against Miami, because they just came out and beat Buffalo last week.
Yeah.
So, what are they going to come out and do it again against Miami? That'd be awesome to see, obviously.
I love it.
But
I love it.
yeah, but it's absolutely feasible. So
No, it is. And the Jacksonville Pittsburgh game, I think, is carries so many implications. Jacksonville 5-2. They're just a game behind us. Pittsburgh's 4-2. They had that bye. And Pittsburgh's really bringing their brand of football into this game. Every time they get an opportunity to play, whether it's a marquee talent in the AFC or if it's a bottom feeder, I feel like they just bring them into their realm where it's all defense. We're going to have a low scoring affair. Right now, it's 9-3. So we've only been able to rattle
Yeah.
off field goals in that game. We're talking about a Jacksonville team that's got a lot of firepower with Calvin Ridley, with Christian Kirk, and we were able to subdue them whenever we played them in week 2. What a game, by the way, being
Yep.
out there in Jacksonville. But uh, just seeing kind of the way the Steelers have been to hold Trevor Lawrence in check, like that game is going to be one of those ones that comes down to the fourth quarter, maybe a final possession kind of thing.
Yep.
And honestly, I'm rooting for the Steelers in this one. I want the Jaguars to get knocked down another peg. They're going to be competing with us for the 1 seed. I think the Steelers are going to be more in line for a wild card spot, to
Sure.
tell you the truth. So just looking at the way that those two teams are clashing, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Pittsburgh
Yep.
to keep knocking them down.
Yeah, well, you talked about Bill Belichick a little bit and how he's such a scheme coach, right? And when
Mhm.
you play Bill Belichick, you can't anticipate what you're looking for, because he's going to have something new,
And
kind of
we
like what
have
Andy
them.
Reid has,
We
on
have
the
them
offensive
later this
side.
year too.
Sure,
So
yeah, November or December 18th. I think
yeah,
we're going to be back here at the Atlas for that show.
that's going to be
So,
exciting.
but same thing with the Steelers. When you play the Steelers, you're playing Mike Tomlin, right? And you have the
Right.
potential to get out coached every time you play the Steelers. And so you kind of get that gritty defense. That's that Pittsburgh mentality
Oh,
that they've
dude.
had since the 70s down
That
there.
AFC North mentality.
Yeah. That's a good point, because anytime you play somebody from the AFC North, you're getting a gritty football team, and they're gonna bring everything and try to beat you down.
They
Where teams
pressure
like
you, they
us,
get you in the trenches.
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
they want to beat you
golly.
up, man. They want to beat you up.
No, that's going to be a fun one to watch play out. But really, I think the biggest one for us as Chiefs fans is to see what these Bengals do. Joe Burrow's allegedly 100% healthy going into this game against San Fran. We've seen what Brock Purdy's been able to do last couple weeks, lose in those instances, unfortunately for them. But
Yep.
with everything that we're seeing with San Francisco, what their defense can do, the way that they can inflict pressure and punishment on the quarterback. Nick Bosa obviously being a big piece to that,
Yep.
but they also got Randy Gregory from the Broncos. Thank God, get him out of the division. And then everything that we see from Eric Armstead up in that front seven, not to mention Fred Warner kind of quarterbacking things for that defense. The Bengals offensive line has not been that great. Right. We
Yeah.
know our friend OBJ over there has not really been able to protect his blind side too much. But with Joe Burrow finally being 100%, he can scramble if there's ever a situation where the pocket's collapsing
Sure.
on him. I just don't want to see a scenario where they come out here, get some confidence, and whoop up on a San Fran team that sees them roll this into a multiple game
Yep.
winning streak.
Yep.
Like that's the part I'm iffy on.
And it's very feasible to see that happen, because we saw that happen, last year. We talked about a couple weeks ago where, Cincinnati starts 2-2, or they start 2-3, or they start
Right.
3-3 like they were this year, and then they catch a little sliver of hope. They get that little win, and then they take that off and compete with us for the number 1 seed in
Right.
AFC, and then we see those guys again in January, which to me, I'd rather see those guys again in January. I want to beat those guys again in January where it matters. So bring it back to Arrowhead. We got those guys New Year's Eve this year at Arrowhead, so we could see them twice within a 2-week, 3 weeks week span right there.
Well, here's my thing with the Bengals, man. Like, if we're put in a position where we don't have to face them at all in the playoffs, I'm really not going to be upset.
You don't care who you don't care who we beat.
No, I don't give a shit who we beat. I don't care to have. I'm not uber focused on having the Bengals there in January or February going into the Super Bowl just because it comes down to the wire, and I don't know if my heart can handle another matchup like that.
We're still young. We're still young.
I'm getting like hypertension notices for my doctor after those games. But really, it's exactly what you said, right? We don't want them to catch fire.
Yeah, right. I'm a legacy guy, so I want to beat the baddest of the bad when it comes to January games.
You don't want anyone to have any excuses as to why we got there.
No.
Well, Joe Burrow got hurt.
Exactly.
Well, blah blah
Exactly.
blah.
That's
Yeah.
already the conversation, right? So we got to take that out of the conversation.
Yeah, I guess I could see that too. Just kind of like having that point to prove, taking that chip off your shoulder kind of
big
thing.
Deal.
But with Burrow, man, he's a dog.
He is.
Like he can get cooking as soon as he gets that chemistry up with Jamar Chase or T. Higgins and everybody else there on that offensive side of the ball. Joe Mixon honestly has been a saving grace for them, getting that running game established. But if he can start clicking with T. Higgins again and continue what he's doing with Jamar Chase against this Niners defense, which their front seven's phenomenal, but they've let up a lot in the passing game lately because their secondary has been kind of faltering. That's the part that I'm concerned with kind of going into here.
Yeah, I could use a resurrection of T. Higgins. My fantasy team could really do for a T. Higgins. He's been sitting on my
too, honestly.
I mean, he had a game where
like looking at
like 28, and then he hasn't done shit since. So I could use that. I started 3-0 in one league, and now I'm 3-4. And
you're riding the Bengal train right now.
Yeah. And then the league, the league that you and I share, playing Hudson this week, and he's like 6-1. I don't know.
Well, I have T in that.
You guys got the same record.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling. Yeah, you're the one seed. Yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. I'm the last seed.
High scoring team in the league. I'll just put it out there.
As of right now, I'm slated to have a lemonade stand right out here outside the Atlas, probably here coming July or so. So. If you're looking for some lemonade, look for me. I'll be on the side.
Let me hear your best lemonade call. Like you're the guy in the stands. You're walking up. You need someone to buy lemonade from you. What is it?
Oh yeah. First thing that comes to mind is the hot dog guy.
Yeah.
So you do the best hot dog impression. So I'll just say something like, "I got cold lemonade here. Come get your cold lemonade."
Keep working it in there.
I'll work through that. I got plenty of time.
Dude, I'd buy lemonade from you.
Okay, good. Okay. It's not because of what I just did though, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's just because I like you.
Yeah, okay.
So let's break it into some Chiefs news. This is brought to you by Better Homes and of course your wife, Katie Lawrence.
Yeah, so Better Homes and Garden, one of our sponsors here on the show. My beautiful wife, Katie, is sitting
there
here with us right now. So she serves the whole Kansas City area. She wants to be able to take care of families if they're looking to sell, looking to buy, whatever you're looking to do with your new home or your old home. She wants to take care of you. So she serves the whole Kansas City area. If you want to get a hold of Katie, we have her information that's tagged on the YouTube show now. So be sure to give her a call or shoot her an email. She'll take care of you. But Dan, let's bring it in with some Chiefs news. Starting now, you mentioned Justin Ross a little bit earlier. So what's that looking like?
I feel like we can't get through a damn season without somebody getting in trouble off the field. And if you're looking at the rap sheet for the Kansas City Chiefs over the last few years, I think we're in like the top 10 in the NFL for arrests or situations. Essentially, there's more details to come up. I'm not going to be here to play a side or the other, but what he's being charged with is property damage. There's a domestic violence dispute related to it. So there's a lot of really sensitive things going on with him and his personal life that ultimately the Chiefs didn't do anything about it. So the league decided to take action, right? He pleaded not guilty. So there's a court of law that's going to play out and determine whether or not he is truly guilty or not. But with everything football related, commissioner said, we're going to place him on the list and he's not going to be able to practice or play. So with a guy like Justin Ross, if you think about it, he's wide receiver 5 or 6 on the depth chart.
Right.
How much value does he really bring to the team to keep him on the team and taking up a roster spot in that scenario?
Specifically right now, I say not a lot of value. And the conversation for us in the last couple of weeks has been, hey, let's address the wide receiver room. What are we doing to address the wide receiver room? And they made the move with McCole. And,
and that was before the situation came
out. No. Sure. But I'm saying like, we have an active problem here with the wide receiver room, and the play hasn't been here when we need it to be here, right? It's been down here. So
right.
letting this linger around is not going to benefit the team at all, right? So let's free up the slot. Let's bring somebody up that's willing to play some football, whether it addresses the wide receiver need or if it addresses a special team need or a different position that we need to address. Don't hold a spot for that, right? So I
Yeah.
think I think we play the long game here, and how do we develop a new guy to step up and play the role?
Yeah, with some of the injuries that we've experienced so far through the season, Richie James should be coming off of IR here soon. We'll get more in the injury report a little bit later, but we have another wide receiver that's set to make an appearance today, who I
Okay.
think is going to be
Yep.
huge for us. But with Justin Ross and his whole situation, I don't know if his potential is worth it for us to keep investing time into it just with everything he's got going on off the field. I mean,
Yep.
when you get into domestic violence situations, those are always pieces that are really tricky to navigate. And I think it's pretty simple here.
Yep.
There's no need for us to keep wide receiver 5 on the depth chart with
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
cloud like that hanging over him.
Yeah.
And
Especially
you
when you
know,
went out and got another wide receiver, five, McCole.
right, exactly. WR5 is already on the roster and he wears number 12. So there's no point in even keeping him here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us make a move where we kind of cut bait and run
Yeah.
from them. Now that I don't think that trickles or cascades into another situation where we're clamoring for another wide receiver and going
Yeah.
grabbing
Same. Same.
anybody.
Same.
But uh, with some of those guys set to return, we're still going to have 7 guys
Yeah.
in that position group. So with that being the case, there honestly, I hope everybody involved. I wish them the best with that situation. But when it comes to Chiefs football and being on the field, I don't think there's any place for it. So
Yeah. Something that's also forgotten from time to time is that Travis Kelsey's our number one. So he plays a WR1 for us, right? So a lot of people see him separate in a category as tight end, but the way
we
our
know the
offenses
truth.
ran, yeah, he's our wide receiver one. And whether not, that's what his position title says is doesn't really matter to Pat Mahomes when he's slinging the ball. So kind of addressing that as a wide receiver aspect for the team, it's a difference maker. But
Yeah.
moving on from that situation, Frank Clark signs with Seattle. There's a lot of
Oh
conversations
man.
about Frank Clark joining back with the team in Kansas City and thinking that he was going to make it happen, make another run with the Chiefs for another Super Bowl.
I wanted it.
Yeah, I know, and specifically just for the January, late December play,
Exactly.
and that's what I was all I was looking for,
Well,
and
good.
we're not going to see that. But
Yeah.
what are you getting out of Seattle? I mean, what's the he wanted out of Denver so bad
Yeah.
just to go to Seattle? I don't understand that move.
Well, to address the Seattle part first, he's from LA. So he's from the West Coast. I think having an opportunity to be over there with some family, he got drafted by that team. So he's already familiar with the schemes that they're running there. Pete Carroll is still the coach.
Sure. Yep.
So he knows what kind of leadership he's going into with that
Good
franchise.
point.
So
Yep.
so from that perspective, I guess that kind of makes sense if you were to go anywhere outside of Kansas City, like go somewhere you're comfortable. But not having him here is a bummer to me because I thought of it as kind of like what we did with Jerick McKinnon is save him in the regular season, play him sparingly, maybe 10, 15, 20% of the snaps here and there, barring an injury. And then we get in the playoffs, and that's where he can really start hitting home runs and
Yeah.
be kind of our DH type of role where he's getting home to the quarterback, knocking some sacks in and just doing what Frank Clark does. He's only a couple sacks shy of the all-time playoff sack record. So he obviously becomes an entirely different person
Yes.
once
He
the
does,
calendar
man.
flips to January, February. So having a guy like that who's already he has such a strong presence in the Chiefs locker room. Chris Jones has been lobbying to bring him back on the
Yep.
team
Yep.
the whole summer, let alone parts of the
Right.
season where he's
Right.
like, free my dog.
Yeah.
And so getting him back on the squad and having him as a part of that unit in the locker room would be a big piece. And I think situationally, with Charles Omenihu getting activated from his suspension, that might have played a little bit into it. We saw what he
Yep.
did. He got a sack in that last game,
Yeah.
made
Played
a
a hell of
big
a game.
impact. Hell
Yep.
of a game. Got
Yep.
that deflection for our
Yep.
game sealing interception against the Chargers. So there's a lot of pieces there from Charles Omenihu that I think maybe dictate a little bit of that conversation to get him back.
Yeah, that's a good point as far as Omenihu coming back. But I think another good point to bring up is that the depth we already have at the edge rusher and
Oh
that they've
man.
been healthy all season. You see 3 or 4 guys that were really rotating before Omenihu got back, and now we
Mhm.
add that fifth guy. that can bring in another source of fresh legs. And on the D line, man, that's such a game changer
It's
to,
huge.
especially if you're dragging these games out and you're making people work, 12, 15 play drives into that defense. That offense is worn by the time, you got another fresh set of legs coming
Yeah.
in, whether it be third and long or second and short. It's nice to have those fresh legs on the D line, and we're kind of already set. We're built right now. The key is, just stay healthy. If we can stay healthy, then this
That's
defense will
the
keep running.
key.
But I mean, you could say that about any football team going into the second half of the season, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's just a huge factor.
Bottom line with health, I mean, that's a lot of times a reason why a team will falter in the playoffs is somebody key in their system gets hurt one way or another,
Yep.
and that's a situation where it's always good to have that depth. So from a depth perspective, just having Fred Clark on the roster, I think would have helped us out a ton. Now, what I'm guessing is the Chiefs probably asked him, "Hey, we'll get you on the practice squad. You hang out there, and then if something happens injury wise, we'll elevate you
We'll
up."
activate you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so he was probably in a place where he was like, "I'm getting calls,
Yeah.
so I'm not so desperate that I need to just
Sure.
kind of wait in the wings and hang out. I really have a chance to go and make an impact." I think the Seahawks have a great opportunity to make the playoffs out there, and the NFC being what it is.
Yep.
So, good on him. Good on him to get another opportunity. I wish it was here in Kansas City, just because the energy that he's bringing to the team, especially in those crunch time moments. But
Yep.
um, pretty great.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, I'm ready to rock and roll with what we got, but here we go, Dan, into the Chiefs and Broncos pregame here, just to talk
Woo!
about how we're gonna whoop some donkey ass today. How we looking on the injury report?
Yeah, Nick Bolton actually was placed on IR this weekend. So next 4 games we're going to be absent of Nick Bolton next 4 weeks, maybe more.
Which was anticipated.
Anticipated for sure. He had to get some surgery, so
Yep.
he's out in LA. Got surgery on that wrist. Time will tell to see how quickly we can get him back in. With those kinds of injuries, it's tricky. You don't know what the structural damage is. They haven't really
Yeah.
come out and told us what that is. Hopefully, we can club him, get him out there a little bit earlier
Yep.
than maybe 4 to 6 weeks. Get him
Love
in
the
that 4
club.
week range.
Love the club.
Dude, just give me some old '90s. Put a neck roll on him too.
Yeah.
Get a
Yeah.
club and a neck roll on this guy,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
let him whoop some ass.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
But
Strato had a neck roll for a little bit, didn't you, in high
that
school?
was a neck brace.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you had a neck roll there
He
for
was
a bit.
sleeping upright in a recliner too
Yeah.
for about 3 months.
Should have had.
But, with the way that that's looking, gonna be missing him for a couple weeks. But
Yes.
Justin
Yep.
Watson, baby, we thought it was gonna be a little more catastrophic than what it ended up being with
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
wrist and elbow, but he practiced fully throughout the week, and we should see him today, which having that deep threat option, he's been one of Mahomes' more trusted targets in the 20 plus range, 20-yard plus range. So having him back on the field, I think will be big for us.
Yeah, taking a big picture snapshot of what the injury report looks like for the Chiefs, we look great. Outside of Nick Bolt, right? So, you want to, position by position group, we look fine. There's no big ticket items missing. Obviously, Nick Bolton plays a huge role in that, but we've talked about it numerous times over the last couple weeks. And really, when Nick Bolton was hurt few weeks ago, several weeks ago, there's guys in that linebacking core that have stepped up and will continue to step up for the
Yeah,
next several weeks to be able to keep that core group of guys in the defense operating at the same level. So Tranquil has played phenomenal football.
love that dude, man.
He's the rest of the guys, Willie Gay and Aaliyah Chanel, both playing great football as well. With Nick Bolton in there, I firmly believe that we have the best linebacker core in the league. And it takes all four of them, really. It's not
It
just Nick
does.
Bolton's linebacking core there. So, big picture, I think we look fine. Broncos, what are they looking like for injuries?
Nothing major to report for them. I mean, they're coming into this game relatively clean, other than the guys that are currently sitting on IR or pup and that sort of thing. So anyone that had any concerns, they've been practicing fully going into the game, so they should be full strength
Yep.
facing us now.
Good.
With everything on that side of the ball, I'm not really worried about what the Broncos are fielding, or whether or not those injuries are really going to make a difference for
Yep.
for the ultimate result of the
Sure.
game, which
Sure.
we'll get into that more later. But I'm really excited to talk about some of these bets.
Yeah. So before we move into that, Mr. Keith Hudson is over here. He wants to talk a little bit about what he's brewing down here at the Atlas. We want to introduce him. And Jimmy, if you want to step up, and no, you want to stay back there. Okay,
He
yeah,
said, "Let me spectate."
you look good back there.
Look at
But,
that Chiefs sweatshirt, though. Love it, baby. It looks good. I hope I can keep this one that long because I'm loving it.
All right, Keith, floor's yours. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate all your support and a great podcast here at the Atlas Saloon today. So let everybody know today's the day that we put the 8 seconds back on tap. We brewed that back for the Super Bowl last year when we beat Cincinnati with butt kicker's kick with 8 seconds to go. And I saved the cake back and disappeared real quick. I was hoping, my plan was today the Chiefs would be 8-0 and would be letting that beer go. So it was 8 seconds. We won in 8 seconds. It's an extra Irish stout. It's got 8 grains in it. It's 8%. And the key ingredient, the secret ingredient, is Hunt's ketchup because Mahomes likes Hunt's on everything. So I put some Hunt's ketchup in it when I brewed it. So it's a little tribute to the Mahomes.
All right.
No, it's
hopefully I'll come in here and drink some of it.
yeah.
We'll
Let's
invite
get
him in.
15 in the house, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely.
He
So-
puts ketchup on steak. He probably loves ketchup and beer.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not? Yeah, I mean, I do. I couldn't have told you that before today, but I do. But Keith, tell us a little bit about the beers you got on tap and what you got cooking.
Yeah,
right
it was
now.
so much fun going back in the brew room and kind of talking about the hops and barley and kind of the chemistry and science behind what you're doing here. And honestly, I think everyone else should hear a little bit about it too.
Well, so when Jim and I decided we were going to do this thing, we both like German lagers, and so there's no IPAs. We don't like Skittles, and so we don't like IPAs. But we do have German lagers on tap. Atlas Brew is our flagship beer. It's an old Swiss recipe from the 1800s. Bohemian yeast and noble hops that they used back in those days. So our German lagers all have noble hops in them, and there's 4 of them, and so we really do that. Our grains come from the malting company from Bayerman's Malting Company. Bayerman's is in Germany, been around since 1749.
Wow.
And then our Irish stout those grains come from the malting company of Ireland. And then our stout, which you might have heard Trey say is our #1 beer on Untapped, the yeast comes from Edinburgh. So we try to do those kinds of beers. We have a couple Belgian beers on tap. Empire Double is a Belgian beer. The yeast throws off a little banana flavor. And then the Temprano we brewed back in October of last year, and we put it in a Temperillo wine barrel.
Very
and
good.
It sat for 9 months, and then we got it on tap also. And we just ran out of Oktoberfest. So our newest beer today is 8 seconds.
Love it.
Nice.
Love
You
it.
got anything cooking back there right now?
Yeah, 2 fermenters full right now, and then we're getting ready. Atlas Brew's back there. Some of our flagship beers are back there, and then tomorrow we're brewing a new beer. We had a beer fest in Excelsior Springs this summer for the barbecue contest.
Yep.
And Alan,
which is a blast, by the way.
It's a way blast. Thousands of people downtown, and we did. Alan Amos, a buddy of mine, won Best of Show, which means that's the best beer of the contest.
Wow.
And I've been wanting to brew a golden ale for a long time anyway, and his happened to win. So Al and I are going to brew a golden ale tomorrow, which is also
very nice.
Belgian beer too.
Let's get it done.
Cool.
Exactly.
So I want you to talk about the Chiefs environment in here in the Atlas, because obviously everyone listening to the podcast, they're big time Chiefs fans, and we want to give people more options on places that they can go and enjoy a game when it's not here in Kansas City, of course, at Arrowhead. So just kind of talk on that a little bit.
Well, this we started this years and years and years ago, doing Chiefs games, and it just became a thing, and all the locals show up. We throw up a big buffet line. Today's our annual. We have an annual chili contest.
Let's go.
So today's that. So it'll be crock pots all lined up against the wall and doing the judging on that. People have their lucky seats. Eric's got his lucky seat. I got my lucky seat. Jimmy's got his lucky seat. So we all Josh has his lucky seats. We all have our lucky seats, and we all watch our lucky television. We all wear our lucky shirts, and we all wear our lucky underwear, and we do the whole full.
Not superstitious at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not at all. And so it's just grown and morphed into something that is crazy. And then, well, for the playoff games, a buddy of ours that will be here today, Charlie, he brings down his Chiefs bus. It's all decorated up. We fill the bus up outside, hanging out the windows out in front. There'll be 60, 70 people in that picture.
Beautiful.
That annual picture we have every year. And so a lot of arrowhead chops going on in here. And then, but the real draw is our rally shots. Whenever the Chiefs are kind of down on the luck, maybe down by 7, and we need some Mahomes magic, we pull out a tray of shots, run them around the bar. Everybody gets a shot. We do a salute, do a shot. And as it turns out, we get a lot of wins after those shots.
Is that the secret? Is that the secret to the Mahomes comeback?
And the closer the games, the more shots we have to do. So that's shorter.
Check.
Well, you're doing God's work. No, I love it. I love it. Honestly, like anytime we get an opportunity to come back out here and experience that environment, Trey can always speak on it too. But man, it's just live in here.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good time.
It's an awesome time. I appreciate what you guys have done. I'm
Absolutely.
gonna get out of here.
All right.
Do the show. I'm sure it's gonna get edited up anyway.
Thanks, Keith. No, we're live. So everything you just said.
Appreciate you, Keith. Appreciate you, Keith.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent. It's gonna be fun. We're starting to see some people trickling in. You guys can't see it here on the camera shot, of course, but getting a little bit of a crowd going, and there's going to be a lot of noise, especially once that kickoff happens at 3:25, which will be off by then. But we gotta watch the game too. So
Yes, we do.
Let's get into these best bets, man. KC favored. The most recent spread that came out about them is -7. So we got a 7-point favorite here going into the game, and I think at the beginning it was closer to 8 to 8.5 ish. Some of the weather going on out there, which will, as you guys probably know by now, snowy as hell in Colorado this time of year, and I think the high is about 29. So it's a perfect recipe for a low scoring game, and they're dropping the point total on us too there at just 45.5 last I looked.
Yeah. And that one's dropping as well too, just like the temperature of Denver. So quick stat here for everybody on the against the spread for the Chiefs right now, 6-1. Strato, take note of that. I know you're pretty hot on the Chiefs. 6-1 against the spread. When in the last couple of years, Dan, the Chiefs have not done well against the spread. I think it was 2 years ago.
They made it to like where we never cover.
4-12 or 4-13 against the spread in the regular season, which is tough as a Chiefs fan if you want to play the Chiefs games, right? Because you always want to take them to win, but you got to make some money at some point, right? It's not about being a fan. But 6-1 against the spread right now. Denver is 5-1 against the spread, so don't touch those guys. And then, 6-1 against the spread, I never would have thought, but I think it's an example of what we're seeing with the offense, right? There was always way over expectations as far as what the offense was going to do. And Vegas has kind of settled down on the offense and understood that, hey, these guys aren't going to drop 40 burgers every game. So
they finally tempered expectations a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think everyone, the reason why Vegas does it, obviously, is because the public think that's what's going to happen. That's the reason why they got the big ass buildings, and we're down in our on our level. But with everything that's kind of leveled out with the defense, I think that's a very, very good point on why we've seen some of these totals drop in our games. The unders have been hitting an Arrowhead quite a bit, and then also we're just like covering the gap a little bit better. Our defense is top 2 in points allowed. So that's been a huge piece as to why those overs aren't hitting as frequent as they typically do. So a lot there for sure. And with 45.5, looking at that point total, looking at the weather, I'm going for the under, tell you the truth. 24-10, 24-13, I think seems very reasonable for the result here on that game. So I'm taking unders if I'm on the Kansas side, plugging in bets, or if I got a VPN here, whatever the situation is, I'm taking the under.
So you're liking the -7 as well then too.
I like us to cover.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Strato, are you taking -7?
Yeah. Well, I like Denver to cover now.
I'm not touching. I wouldn't touch it.
Giving you a hard time.
Personally, the -7 is like this gray area of like maybe -6.5. Like I'd love that.
There's no kicker there, which kind of puts you in a situation where you can wash, and Vegas maybe likes that.
Yeah.
Like we'll just cut our losses here and call it a 7 and let the public figure it out from there. But
which we could see some change here before the game starts.
Yeah. we always see these lines move as we kind of approach things, but
Yeah.
bring it into the player prop side of things. There's a lot of pieces here that I think the weather will kind of dictate what the best route is going to be with these different players. So run us through a couple of those.
Yeah, so just high level, mostly Chiefs guys we're going to talk about here. Isaiah Pacheco.
As we do.
Yeah. Isaiah Pacheco over under on 2.5 receptions. I'm kind of liking that. Last week he got involved more in the pass game. We saw one of those brought back with a hold, I think it was. Sky Moore over under 15.5 receiving yards, which a guy who hasn't been too involved in the game early on in the season. But again, we saw him get involved again last week. If that can continue to happen, we might see him cover that 15.5 yards. Travis Kelce over under. So I got over under on 6.5 receptions here and 76.5 receiving yards. Kind of liking the 6.5 receiving yards over under. I like the over on that one, but the 76.5 receiving yards, kind of like that middle gray area with the weather going on. I don't see a big pass game, but if from another point, if there's going to be a big pass game, it's going to be a Travis Kelce pass game on the short dumps. So we could see him tear this Denver defense up a little bit. So however you're looking at that one, might be a good pick for you as well.
Yeah, with Travis Kelce, I mean, he's had over 10 receptions in the last couple games. Now you can attribute some of that to, I don't want to say her name on the show again. I feel like we might break a record, but
we can't beat ESPN, bro. That's all they're talking about. But that's a good point, man. Like there's like a stat out there that he's had over 100 yards in every game Taylor Swift's been at the game, and like averaging 40 every game she's not at the game. So is she going to be there, Katie? Is she going to be at the game today?
No,
she's not at the game.
It's time to tour.
What's more important, a Chiefs win or a tour? Valid questions. What about Chiefs dubs? If she's the lucky token, we need her.
We would.
Right. Right.
Well, with what I think is going to happen in this game too, the snow is going to play a big piece in the deep ball being, viable or not, and our rushing game, I think we'll take a front seat there. So a lot of these passing props, I'm not very keen on, but with Travis Kelce, he's the outlier in that situation. He's going to be one that gets fed, like you said, those short yardage passes, and we see us all the time dump him a ball in the flat, or he gets a quick slant in so we can get that going, or a quick shovel pass in the red zone. And, I can see us working some of those pieces in to get that reception piece, the 6.5. The yardage is where I'm concerned with it.
Sure. Yeah, I think I agree with that. That's a good point. Moving on to a couple others here. Excuse me, Rashee Rice over under on 3.5 receptions. Obviously, that guy has taken a huge role in our offense as of late. I see that continuing on for the rest of the year. That's not a short-term thing there for the Chiefs. That's going to be a long-term solution there for our wide receiver core with the Chiefs. And then Cortland Sutton moving to the other side of the football field. Anytime touchdown plus 240. So he's at a pretty good stretch over the last couple of weeks where he scored some touchdowns. So I think this one's a solid one. Plus 240 is kind of a nice area to sit in, throw in a quick 10 or 15 little deal there and cash out on that. Pat Mahomes over under 25.5 completions. I want to say Russ was sitting at like 18 or 19 completions for the game.
Damn.
Which is pretty low. But again, what was it at half? He had like 80 yards passing or something like that.
In the last game, he had 44 going into the fourth quarter, and there was no snow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, chalk that up for what you want. He was also in Arrowhead getting his bell rung.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with Cortland Sutton, he's been kind of that mainstay for them to catch a touchdown. He caught the last one in that last game. So at plus 240, I think you're getting a ton of value there.
Yep.
For Patrick Mahomes completions, if we're doing the dink and dunk game, kind of going through, drop 2-3 yards in the air here and there to Rashee Rice or to Travis Kelce, then that might hit. But 25.5, I mean, maybe a little bit higher than I would want it to be, but we'll the game script's going to dictate that at the end of the day. I might go under there just to play it safe, or I might not even touch it at all.
Well, I'm not playing it safe. I'm going for
we're
it,
not
baby.
in this business to play it safe.
So, I mean, one big factor there is if the rush game works. If the running game works, then I don't think Pat is going to get those looks.
Yeah.
If the running game fails, Isaiah Pacheco is struggling to get the ball downfield, then I think we'll revert back to, hey, let's dump it in the flat to either Isaiah Pacheco or McKinnon out of the backfield, or to Travis Kelce somewhere 7 yards down the field, wherever he finds those gaps in between those linebackers. And so that's kind of how I see that game going. And then a complete reset at half, like the Chiefs always do. It's a reset. We could be up 35 at half, and then they decide to change the game plan at half and
Flip it on us.
Yeah, kind of figure out play a new game. So last one to go through here, Dan, is Kadarius Toney, anytime touchdown plus 400. This is a guy that could come plug into the game at any point and have a touchdown in any kind of different scheme. Again, to the rush game, he could come on as a jet sweep or whatever it may be, or a quick bubble or whatever, something like that, and we could see him score off a touchdown or off a play like that. And
well, we ran that play, the Super Bowl play, right, where he just kind of breaks out into the flat, does his little bubble route. We hit him, dump it off. There's obviously going to be a decoy on the other side that attracts the attention of the defense, that gives him that free lane to just kind of run it to the pylon. So we saw that happen in the Chargers game last week. The potential for that to happen, I think, is very high in any game. My question is going to be whether or not Mecole Hardman maybe gets an opportunity to take that route from him, or whether they run it to Sky Moore, which we also saw in the Eagles game. So, the potential for him to get that opportunity is there. But I think with, the odds being what they are, plus 240, right?
That's plus 400.
Plus 400 on that touchdown. Like, you're going to have some other bets that you're playing on the day where that's really just going to be some gravy, some betting gravy that you put on top. So I'd sprinkle a little bit there on it anytime. You got your mashed potatoes with these other situations. Just get you a little gravy on that anytime for Toney.
Understood. All right, so we've tapped onto the weather a little bit in Denver. To touch on that a little bit more, Dan, like you said earlier, high of 29, low of 13 going into Denver. It's already, it's October, and Denver's already freezing. 6 to 14 inches of snow, which is
ahead
ridiculous.
Of schedule,
yes,
dude.
yes. I'm actually glad. A lot of people want to move out to Denver and enjoy that mountainous area, which is nice. I love the mountains. But man, I can't deal with that kind of weather all the time. This early in the
know what
fall.
you're getting into year round.
Yeah. So Chiefs games in the snow. You've experienced a lot of Chiefs games in the snow. They're a blast. They're a lot of fun to go to. But
nothing like fighting the elements with your boys and girls and just like it's something like you're out there with them in the field and the elements a little bit you're a little more buttoned up, you're wearing your bibs,
they got short sleeves on. Absolutely.
There's something like after you get done, it's like, man, I just did a hard day's work. Kick off your snow boots after one of those games. You just feel the victory a little bit harder, I think.
So a quick memory of mine at a Chiefs game, in the snow. It was like a spot storm came up. I think
what a game it was.
20 or 21 years old. We were freshmen in college,
19.
sophomores in college. Got a random ticket from
don't
somebody.
Say anything that's going to incriminate us.
Well, statute of limitations hasn't hit yet. No, sure it has. 7 years, bro. We're way good. So we got free tickets from somebody. I don't remember who they were. A couple of us went, and they were nice. They were like midsection tickets. I think we were in like
I didn't sit with you guys. I was up top, but I did tailgate with you guys. And ride in and out.
Yeah, we were sitting in the yellow seats, the nice seats. You walk in the corridor area. They got heat in there, so you're in there often. Games like that.
Oh yeah.
But a couple guys I was with, not going to name any names, had a couple too many drinks. We were playing the Colts. It was late in the year, and somebody tried to, I don't know if they were trying to hurdle a child or whatever it may have been, but they got about a 2-inch vertical and did not hurdle the child, and then ended up plowing through somebody. So lot of not good memories for that kid. Honestly, he'll never forget that. And he'll go to a game here in 20 years.
I got pummeled at a game once.
Yeah. Well, he'll have the same experience to another kid at some point in his life too. So he's just gonna pass it on to other Chiefs fans. But I wanted to pass that one on. That was a memorable moment in my Chiefs. What started to be fandom there. Yeah.
Well, we've come so far when it comes to the snow games too. Like our tailgates now with our group, it's like luxury. we put the tents up, we get the tarp around for the walls.
Yeah.
We have our kerosene heaters on the inside. There's literally snow melting off the top of the tents.
Yep.
And like the worst thing you have to worry about is whether or not you're going to get dripped on
Right.
by some water.
Yeah.
I mean, we're definitely a little more pampered than we were back in those days. I was sloshing through sleet and sludge to get into the gate.
That's part of the experience, though, man. That's
part of it.
That's
part of it for sure. But there's a lot of impacts that can come from the snow that kind of levels the playing field for teams entering those games. So, a running game is going to be a huge impact in this one for sure. And I just kind of think back to the last snow game we had with the Broncos in 2019. We hosted them in like mid-December, so snow in Kansas City, but it was just pure white out there the entire time. I mean, it did not let up. Snowflakes were like that big. So that entire game, we gave Patrick Mahomes an opportunity to coin the phrase, "I can spin this shit in anything," where he was asking people, he's like, "I think I'm a snow game guy now," And so those iconic lines were kind of coming about. And he did. He balled out 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And Travis Kelce was a big component to that success where he caught 11 passes for over 140. Yep. So just everything that we've done against that Denver defense going into it has been a big help.
Yeah.
For our offense and getting that success and being able to overcome those elements as we see them in these games. So we had a snow game against the Broncos on a Super Bowl run. History tends to repeat itself. So I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Do it again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Do it again. So Chiefs are going for the 17th straight win against the Broncos. Last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs was September 15th of 2015.
Sheesh.
As we bring this in, we want to introduce somebody from the crowd here, somebody we talk about often on the show. Strato, why don't you come up here and introduce yourself?
Yeah, come talk with us. I love you guys. You guys should have seen the Eric Berry jersey. That's probably 90% of our Chief stories about Strato take place with him wearing this jersey, which has gotten us through 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 rings, and 5 AFC Championship games, plus the entire Alex Smith era. So
one of the few yellow Chiefs jerseys you'll see out there.
Yeah, it's and it was not.
It's white. It's a white jersey.
It wasn't produced yellow.
Yeah. So. This is Strato. We talk about Strato often on the show. Good friend of Dan and I grew up with him. And, between the 3 of us and Hudson, we talk a lot of football, talk a lot of spreads, talk through a lot of game plan on what the Chiefs are trying to do, both past and present. And, so Strato, tell us a little bit about yourself. Season ticket member, Chiefs fan.
Season ticket member, Chiefs fan since I could walk. Sure, before that I was too. Been watching games with you guys, my whole life. So, spitting that it's Broncos week.
Yes, sir.
We actually got a really good opportunity last year to go to the game in Denver.
Yeah.
So
good point.
That was absolutely amazing. Never get tired of talking trash to the donkeys. So that was great. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Let's get it.
So 2015. So last time we beat the Broncos was 2015.
Last time they beat us.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, good point. So tell us a little story about 2015. What was Strato doing in 2015?
Man, who knows? Getting into a lot of trouble, I'm sure.
We were taking on Missouri State at that time.
Yeah, that was some dark years for your boy here.
Oh God.
But basically just doing the thing. I mean,
okay,
no specific.
We were going to
breaking. Strato was doing the thing.
Really going. Had my head on my shoulders. Yeah, well, I've done that, but we're not gonna talk about that. I was going to school, studying really hard, actually, guys.
Okay.
Hitting the books.
Good.
Definitely do that.
Yeah.
Don't skip out on that.
Yep.
Yeah, don't skip on that for sure. With I think a good thing to talk about too is how important football is for our friend group, because we've been running a fantasy football league for the last 5 years, and just having everyone as a part of that, like that extends into our Chiefs fandom too, where you're guaranteed to not have a legitimate shot at Patrick Mahomes because someone is going to overdraft him, or Travis Kelce or anything like that. So like talk about some of those days where we had.
When Patrick was drafted, I remember sitting down at the Buffalo Wild Wings watching the draft. and Deshaun Watson was still on the board, and we drafted this guy named Patrick Mahomes. And I looked around at everybody and was like, God damn it, we just did the thing again. We just ruined it. We had the option. We could have got Deshaun. Yeah. We're taking a chance on this kid from Tech, and I didn't think it was going to play out the way it did, obviously. Never been more happy to be wrong in my entire life. That was the biggest, worst take of my life, I would also say. So that was one of my big, memorable moments from at least the beginning of the Patrick Mahomes era. Even when he was getting ready to start, I was a big Alex Smith guy. Love him. I mean, he brought us through the curse of the playoffs, so to speak, winning our first playoff game in who knows how long. And I heard he was going to be the starter, and we traded Alex, and I was like, man, I don't know. Is this too soon? What's going to happen? And sure as hell, it was the best decision for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And it's so full circle too, because Mahomes made that first start against the Broncos in Denver. We had essentially the entire backup crew on offense in the game with him, and that ended up being the crew that took over for a lot of those full-time starters when Mahomes made his first venture as the starter of the Chiefs in 2018. So I love seeing that full circle moment, and the fact that we've been able to, you almost have to prove your fandom as a fan of the Chiefs because of how much we've grown. We've become an international team where people across the globe know who Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the Kansas City Chiefs are. So just seeing the way that the game has kind of exploded internationally at this pivotal time while we've had Patrick Mahomes on the team. I'm not saying it's like Mahomes is the Jordan of the sport, but it's almost Jordan-like impact where the NBA grew to an international game at the time where Jordan really rose to his prominence. And that's kind of what's happening with the NFL and football in general. So seeing that transition happening right here in Kansas City is just insane.
Sure.
It's insane.
Yep. Absolutely.
So having it be Denver week, I'm curious, maybe the viewers want to hear this. What's a good story from each one of you about our trip to Denver last year? What was like one of the most memorable things about that trip?
Yeah, I would say for me, I mean, the zoo was a great experience.
It was an aquarium that had a zoo inside of it.
Yeah, tigers in the aquarium. Yeah, that was odd, but yes, we studied a lot in Denver, but I think just being able to, as things evolved in all of our lives as we've got older, it's hard to get a group of guys together to go do something. So to be able just to go and do something with your friends, even though it's a smaller group, was incredible, and we're looking forward to that again this year, going to LA. Pretty much the same group is going to be in LA for the Chargers game in January. So I think, not to directly answer your question, kind of an umbrella question or answer there for your question, but just being able to go with a group of guys. And other than that, recording the podcast.
I think that's great. Like just being able to extend our camaraderie and be able to experience that all together. But my favorite part was mobbing around the streets of Denver, because when we were downtown walking from bar to bar, location to location, everyone's wearing red. Everyone has Chiefs logos, and we're all we're chopping
the Nuggets game.
We went to the Nuggets game. We were chirping it up with people there because we're wearing Chiefs clothing to an NBA game, and just knowing that we were able to walk into someone else's city, own that shit, and know that we were going to come out with the W. Just I don't want to say arrogance, but confidence that in our team and being able to, maybe a little arrogant too, but being able to walk around there and be like, we know you're not going to win.
Like,
we're not worried about having that mentality is something that you don't get too often with sports in general, and just taking advantage of that now and being able to take that to a city like Denver, which is a big time rival for the Chiefs, and knowing what they did to us in the Elway years, and now we have that opportunity to do that back to them. That was my favorite part.
Strato, yours?
I'll say it was myself and Keith's son Luke, when we're in the stadium, not letting any moment go unnoticed for any of the fans around us. We were in their ear the entire game, didn't miss a first down or any chance to dog on those guys at all. That was pretty incredible for me to do that in another stadium. done that in Arrowhead.
Yeah.
A lot. But to be able to do that,
Yeah,
at least,
yeah.
especially against the Broncos, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, you did that up in Minnesota too, didn't you?
Yeah, let's not talk about Minnesota yet.
Okay.
Yeah, his wife's a Giants fan, so they made it out there for that playoff game, but we'll keep pushing on. We'll keep pushing on.
Next subject. Please.
Yeah. Well,
The entire time I was out there.
Yeah, they're not sold on him quite yet.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, Strato.
Well,
Good friend of the
thank you.
show.
Dude,
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate you coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, bud.
All right, so we've got about a little under an hour until kickoff, about 25 minutes left of the show. So we'll kind of jump into what to expect here with the game going into Denver, man. How do we get to a point where we see the Chiefs break this winning streak against the Broncos? What do they have to do to win?
Well, I think the Broncos have to use the weather on their side. So, try to explore the running game for the Chiefs. The Chiefs are always obviously going to try to run the ball starting off the game with the weather as it is. So they're going to, as a Broncos team, you got to try to stop the run. Also, you got to get the run game going yourself. So if the Broncos want to try to control the Chiefs, they got to be their offense has to be on the field.
Yeah.
Keep Pat Mahomes off the field. And then third, I think their defense has to force some turnovers, whether that's through the air or on the ground. If the Chiefs turn the football over, we're going to see a tough time trying to beat this Denver team. It's a division game.
Yeah.
No matter how bad they are at the time, anytime you play a division opponent, it's going to be a tougher matchup than what you would see outside of division or even the conference for that point. So I said it a couple weeks ago in the pregame for the Broncos game on Thursday night. You can't take these division games lightly. You have to prepare the same. You have to look forward to this game. You can't look past it, and you have to come out and execute against these teams because you slip up just a couple times, and a team like the Denver Broncos, who should not beat you, can beat you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. With the weather being such a factor, I think that what the Broncos need for them to take advantage of it is for it to negate our ability to really get our passing game going, because we really haven't seen Isaiah Pacheco take full control of a game outside of that Jets game, and those are perfect conditions, right? They were in beautiful weather, and it was a scenario where he was kind of going back home, a homecoming situation for him.
Yep.
Being from Jersey. We haven't really seen him do that, right? He hasn't eclipsed more than 60, 65 yards in most of those other games that we played this year. So it's going to take a lot for us to sort of accommodate for that. If there's a situation where we can't get the passing game going, maybe it's a situation where we've got guys dropping some passes because of that cold weather.
Sure. Yep.
Snow's not supposed to just pound them all day long, but that cold weather is going to persist. So
Yeah. Yep.
seeing how we can acclimate to that is going to be the true challenge, because these guys in Denver, they've been practicing in that weather. They are familiar with it for the most part. Most of them practice there and kind of handle that, because the altitude in conjunction with the weather is always a killer for teams that make their way out to Denver. You always see guys tanked up, getting O2 in straight from the source. And with Patrick Mahomes coming in with an illness, he is battling the flu right now. He's been taking some IVs in. That could be a situation where we see that altitude and that weather take a bigger effect on him, because he's battling a flu. He has with flu comes the fever and all the other symptoms that are involved in that. And not to get too much on the Michael Jordan comparison, but he's going to have himself a little bit of a flu game
Yeah, let's
to
do
overcome those elements and those different scenarios that are going to plague us.
Absolutely. So going into that, or kind of branching off of that, for the Chiefs to be able to come in here and get the win, what are those factors going into that?
Well, we're going to have to limit Javonte Williams, right? They haven't really been able to get him going a ton, but with the conditions being so favorable for the running game, with the snow, with the cold, we know what kind of football to expect with that.
Yeah.
And so our defense, minus Nick Bolton, is going to need to keep him in check. Our front seven's going to have to lay the wood on him and make those reads, make sure that we're corralling him into the areas of the field that we want him to go to. We saw it with the last time we played the Broncos. Javonte Williams had just 10 carries, but with everything that is going into that scenario, they're going to feed him a little bit more. And his average in that last game was over 6 yards a carry. So, I mean, if you're just doing simple math here, he can be in a position to really make an impact. So we're going to need to keep checks on him and make sure they don't get that running game established.
Yeah. So I think on top of that, I mean, we got to look at our own running game.
Yeah.
You know, how involved. I think a big factor for me in this game is going to be how involved are McKinnon and CEH. You know, we talk a lot about Isaiah Pacheco and what he's been able to do so far this season, and he's obvious number one for us right now. And McKinnon's kind of been the third down guy, the pass catch guy. So how are those guys getting involved in the game, in the run game? For a game like this, we've talked about with the weather, you know, it can't be Isaiah Pacheco taking 25, 28 handoffs this game. He's not that guy.
Yeah.
Or hasn't proved to be that guy yet. So how do those guys get involved? It'll be interesting to see. CEH has not had a good season at all so far. You know, kind of a guy we look to see fall off the cliff at the end of the season.
Yeah.
How do you see the running back situation panning out today?
I know we don't have a lot of trust in CEH. His vision hasn't been great. It hasn't translated from the college level to the NFL. But we just have to trust on that rotation. We have to trust that when McKinnon comes in, he's going to be able to find those holes, that Pacheco is going to be able to push through it, because the run game is going to be an integral part of what we do in this offense. And I think a lot of what we're going to do in the passing game is going to be predicated on what we can do in the running game, whether we're doing play actions, whether we're doing some read situations, or maybe
Despite the weather, really.
Right.
You know?
And I think there's going to be a lot of boot situations where he's maybe deciding whether or not he's going to hand that ball off, break out into the flat, and maybe hit someone on a crosser. So just making sure that we can utilize that as an advantage instead of a crutch.
Yep.
But McKinnon, CEH, Pacheco, they're gonna have to really play at their peak game levels to make that a factor for our offense.
Yep.
And then finally on the defensive side, right, we have to keep that running game in check, but we also have to pressure Russell Wilson. That was the recipe for success. That first time we matched up with the Broncos, we were able to get home to the quarterback 4 or 5 times. He had 44 yards passing going into the fourth quarter with 98 total at the end of the game, and he threw 2 picks. So if we're putting him in a situation where he's having to make tough decisions, he's feeling that pressure.
Yeah.
That's really going to be a key. If we get to a point where we've sacked him 4 or 5 times, I don't see any reason why we don't have a W at the end of this game.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with those sacks, with those pressures comes the turnovers, right? So numerous times this year we've seen where we've put on the pressure on whatever opposing quarterback we may be going against. And we've seen those interceptions come from those guys in the secondary. A lot of pressure interceptions we've seen, which has been nice. But on the flip side of the coin is a lot of pressure sacks as well, right? So those guys in the secondary have been playing phenomenal football. We have to see that continue this week, and so we can get to the quarterback as well. So
no, 100%, 100%. I'm excited, man. I don't see any reason why we don't wrap this game. I mean, even with the weather being a factor, you can be concerned about Mahomes and his illness in that situation there. But we've seen Mahomes elevate above any of these other challenges and obstacles. And, with the way that Andy Reid can scheme things up to kind of compensate for those shortcomings against the Broncos team that we're going on 17 straight victories against, I just don't. I mean, I said it on the last show where I said it was going to take an act of God for them to win. And we're getting some snow here. So Mother Nature is trying to help them out, but we'll see kind of what happens with that one. But I just feel super confident the same way I have any of these games. I mean, really what we see anytime the Chiefs lose is it's the Chiefs beating themselves in one way, shape, or form, where we lose a turnover battle and it's a key moment when that turnover happens, or drop passes in key moments on third downs where it hits them right in the hands and somehow it falls straight into the defender's lap and they take it in for a pick six, a la the first game against the Detroit Lions this year. So, I feel really confident, man. I'm excited to enjoy this game at the Atlas, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast down here. Before we wrap up here, Dan, predictions on the game, score.
With the snow being a factor, I think I said my prediction earlier. I think it's going to be a 24-10 kind of game where they get into the red zone a couple times. They turn a field goal, turn a touchdown late. We get in there, we punch it in. get a field goal here and there. Butker's been nails this year, hasn't missed
sure
a kick.
Yeah.
So I'm loving our potential there for 24-10.
I'm liking 20 to maybe 20 to 13, 20 to 10.
So you like the under still?
Yeah, I think I do. But I'm not too sold on the -7 for the Chiefs. So I think I want to hover around that -7 area. I
Love
could
it.
see like a 20 to 13 score, 20 to 14 score.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be right in that Vegas realm, So that's kind of my prediction. I think we get 2 quick scores and then kind of late field goals to kind of tap off the game, and that's how that game ends. So I see, honestly, I see this being another kind of a close game, kind of let's stretch this thing out a full 60 minutes and see if we can play a full game here. So
No, I love it.
That's what I got, man.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll come back at you guys with a recap episode early in the week. We'll follow that up with a preview for that Dolphins game in Germany. And then we got the bye week. So after that, it'll be a little bit of half mid-season touch base, figuring out what the Chiefs need to do to sustain success and kind of what the grades are looking like up to that point. But let's get started with this chili cook-off here in the Atlas, and hope everybody enjoyed the show today. If you got an opportunity, you're in the Kansas City area, make your way up here in Excelsior Springs to the Atlas Saloon and join us and celebrate what I'm expecting to be a Chiefs win.
Absolutely. Let's go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs!